Let's go.
116.
Hello and welcome to another Woodshop podcast with Mike Coffey of Coffey Custom Builds, Daniel Dunlap of Daniel Dunlap Woodworks, and Peter Kapar of Petrie's Workshop. You can find us all, as well as the podcast, on Instagram and YouTube.
Welcome to episode 116 of another Woodshop podcast, where this week we got the feline fine furniture maker, the charitable community champion. Dog Moses Tools was taken on Instagram, so he went with Jonathan Katz-Moses. What's going on?
Good one,
Dog
Pete. Good one,
Moses.
Pete. Pete is our hype man. Every week he comes in hot with the hype. It's always good. Like Pete just said, we got Jonathan Katz-Moses with us, which is super awesome. We've got quite the week in woodworking. It was an interesting one this week, and I want to blame Dan, but really it's not Dan's fault. Dan's a victim as much of any of us here. So I think it goes, we don't really need to introduce Jonathan Katz-Moses, but hey, Jonathan, who are you? And what are you doing here?
Like Pete said, Jonathan Dog Moses the first. Pete, that was like, I don't know if that was on the fly or not, but that was a fantastic intro.
I was typing it up as we were starting up.
He's pro. He's pro.
Absolutely amazing. My name is Jonathan Katz-Moses. I'm a father, a woodworker, a content creator, a tool developer and distributor, and philanthropist in the woodworking community.
Good word.
I like that.
Outstanding.
That's a big word. I'm gonna
Google that real quick. I'll be right back. No, that's awesome. We're really excited you're on the show. Real quick before we jump into anything else, I want to thank our patrons. Big thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you for supporting the show. You guys are awesome. Typically, we go into reviews about this time for the podcast, and we're not going to do that because we got Jonathan Katz-Moses on the show, but we are going to play the jingle as if we are going to do them. And here's that.
Oh, Black Betty, ram lamb.
That's Dan Dunlap singing Black Betty as per usual. You
Or
can't
like
stop
rambling.
Dunlap from singing Black Betty.
You can't stop me.
Gotta love some Ram Jam.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ram
yeah.
Jam, exactly.
Ram
Love
Jam,
Ram
baby.
Jam.
So, I mean, we're not going to do reviews. Typically, we jump into what's on our bench, but this week's been very interesting. We're going to try to discuss this without discussing this a bit. It's going to be tough. We're going to kind of dance around things a bit. We don't want to focus on certain things. We want to kind of focus on positivity here, but I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't give some sort of an idea as to what's happening here. So Dan, since this was done to you in a court of public appeal or whatever, I don't know. Dan, tell us what happened to you this week. I don't know.
Well, it's funny. It actually kind of goes back about two and a half weeks ago. I posted a little video, a little reel, if you will, of me putting
That's a
some
reel.
finish.
That's a real.
Of me putting some finish of the Rubio monocoat type on a little table that I was making. And that video did okay. It sat kind of dormant. Not dormant. I mean, it got a little traction. It got like 70,000 views or whatever.
Sleeper.
It was a sleeper. And, it did its thing for about 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, here comes James from a certain finishing company. He's the owner, trotting in on his horse. And he wanted to drop a comment on it and kind of like bash me for what I was doing and spout off about big chemical. And in the meanwhile, like he disparaged like his whole customer base, like talking bad about people who started their business in a shop, because he mentioned something about, well, I haven't even worked in my garage since I was 12 years old. And he also made a really weird comment about Snapback hats. So it kind of fired up a lot of people because I went and shared it. It fired up a lot of people and it snowballed into this like whole kind of movement. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I remember waking up in the morning and a text from you saying, isn't that the owner's personal account?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
That sure is the owner's personal account. And that was what I woke up to. And I was like, man, I'm reading. I'm like, God, this guy shot himself in the foot so hard. And it just shows so many sides. Like it's, go ahead.
And the incident with me is not isolated. This guy has done this to numerous people, numerous companies and other like personalities online. And it's a pattern with him. It's insane that he's still in business, but it seems like this movement has gotten a little traction. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to like good corporate treatment of your customers, right? Like every single one of the woodworkers out there are wearing snapback hats and working out of their garage. I mean,
It's
like
it's a very large percentage of people.
I know.
I think,
Except for
like,
Jonathan. I mean, you can't hide
I
that
mean,
that
I don't want to ruin my hair
thick,
either.
luscious hairdo. You
Right.
can't
don't
This
wanna make-
pompadour cannot be hidden.
I don't want to make assumptions, but like, I mean, it's very evident when you say something like, I haven't been in a garage shop since I was 12 or whatever that, I mean, obviously that tells me that person had a business handed to them, and they started in a business and they didn't start this thing. They had a business handed to them, and it was something that they got handed to them with a silver spoon. And I'm making assumptions here. I want to be very clear about that I'm making that assumption. But it comes from a place of sitting on a high horse and looking down on people. And the whole rest of the comments were about that. It was a very much looking down on people who are his customers, and it's dirty. It's dirty business. And good.
Another interesting thing here is, he could have avoided all of this super easily by, owning his comment and apologizing, but instead he continues to double down
Or explaining
And
himself as to like,
it's
I mean it like
it's
this,
just
whatever.
It's just bad form. It's just bad form
If I
by
may, like,
anybody.
the thing that really upset me is like, well, you don't come after the community. This community literally helped me through the worst parts of my last like 4 or 5 years. When I've had a rough time, the community was there for me.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about this in detail. But like when the community got upset about it and called them out on it, the rebuttal was an attack at a major corporation brand, vague brand, whatever, like it was kind of admitting the whole thing of like, this is a social media platform. Like most of the content provided is by content creators. Snapback, hat wearing, garage working, regular people. So, small business owners. A lot of us are small business owners. And
All of us.
it just confused me, and it hurt me to hear someone whose product a lot of people supported come after the people that supported the most.
Yeah.
We're not buying gallons of it at a time, but we're the ones sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've shared videos of me using that product in the past, and we're not going to name the product. Everybody knows by now what product we're talking about. I have personally shared me using that product. I've used
Frank's
it.
Red Hot.
and like, it's a fine product. I mean, it does okay, but there's no reason for me to stand behind that product when it's run by somebody who's so terrible. Like, I can live without the product. So
Absolutely.
100%.
I mean, and I think it just comes down to it's not about the incident. It's about, rallying around a battle cry. It's like his points were valid. Like some of the things he was saying had merit, and I haven't fact checked them, but they were valid points. And so he could have done without the attacking of his customer base. And
absolutely.
And it would have gone unnoticed. It may have, swayed 12 people in your comment section 2 weeks after your video was posted.
Yeah.
Instead, he decided to add, it's like throwing a hand grenade on a fire. Like, why? What's the point? Why insult everybody for the sake of insulting them?
No, you're just spreading the fire.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to make himself look really well. He said what he said, and then from that point forward is an opportunity to make himself look like the bigger person and spin it in a positive way. No chance. There's no chance he can do that.
No.
There's no chance. So
One
I think
positive
what we
came out
want-
of this whole thing, though.
the rallying of the community.
Look at the community.
Yeah,
Holy
it's-
smokes. The
has
community
been-
outreach, the uproar, everyone's supporting. Like some people kind of took it over the
That
top.
has
but
been
like,
inspiring, to say
everyone's
the least.
been very proudly, not only that, but other brands talking about where they got started, how important it is, and how they got to the point they are at because of the community.
Well, I started in a garage, and the way I found out about this was 3 people tagged me that they were donating proceeds to my charity as a result of this.
I wanted
And
to
that's-
talk about that specifically. Yes.
It was like amazing. Like, so we raised all this money. We didn't even know it was going to happen. Rubio Monaco's donating money. I mean, it's like, I've got small businesses, guys working out of their garage, like donating proceeds from stuff they're making and selling to people. I mean, it's crazy. And I didn't even know this was going on until I was tagged in that.
Yeah, I had a follower. I think his name is Ryan Price. He designed a sticker around this company's label. It made it look like that company's label, but it's not exactly. Mm-hmm. And he's selling them for $5, and he's donating all the proceeds to Jonathan Katz-Moses charity, which I want to hear more about, actually.
Yeah. The Katz-Moses Woodworkers with Disabilities Fund.
Yeah. So why don't we get into the questions? Mike, you want to rattle some off?
Well, I mean, let's hear about what that is. I mean, I'm going to jump backwards in time after that, but let's talk about the fund. I mean, it's a huge deal. I mean, it's a thing you should definitely be proud of, and we're proud that you're doing this. Why don't you tell us?
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And we're proud to have you here. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, this is.
Thank you, guys. I'm humbled to be here.
Top people we all watch. So
thank you. I'm humbled. I mean, when I hear that, it is never lost on me how the support of this community has built my business. And I believe so firmly in supporting that community and how important it is to always empower people to, even if they don't agree with me, if they don't, I can take constructive criticism and do all those things without having a complete tantrum.
I think that's an important feature of a business owner.
I mean, listen, I'll tell you something. We do customer service every day. I get 30, 40 emails a day. A lot of times those people are upset about something. My package is late. I don't know where it is, or this product didn't, QC didn't catch something. And they're so angry. Not all of them. The small portion of them are so angry. And I'm sorry, sir, that you had that experience. Let us make it right. My company's motto is people before profits, and we really live that. And it's so important to remember that, like, this person who had made this comment on your video, they need to remember that it's like the silent 90% that use their product and enjoy it, that don't give a crap about some influencer saying something. Like, they're not going to be swayed by Dan Dunlap. And he forgot that, and he decided to be insulted by one thing and then insult the entirety of a community over it. And it's so silly, because one of the things I try and remind the people that work with me, who work in the warehouse, is like, look, I know it's frustrating on your soul to get these emails, but you remember we shipped out 10,000 packages this month. So if we got 30 emails of angry people, like, that's a 0.03%. Like, we're doing good. We're doing great. Great. How many people didn't say something? And it's so important to remember. And I think that's important to remember on comments, like on my YouTube channel. You get those comments that just burn your soul, and you're like, ouch, like they got my insecurity and I feel so hurt by this. But then you remember, look, this video has 170,000 views and I got 2 negative comments,
Yeah.
And it's like off, you got to brush it off, because it's just
absolutely
part of the game. And you got to know you're never going to make everybody happy. Like, there's nobody who's batting 100. There's nobody. And maybe Tom Hanks. I feel like Tom Hanks is pretty
he's king of the world, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I saw him blow up a couple weeks ago, but I think he had the right to blow up. But anyway.
Yeah, some dude was pushing his wife or something. I mean, that's a great reason.
Oh, this really happened?
Yeah. It was on Reddit.
100% legit. Yeah. It's on Reddit, so it's real.
It's not a deep fake or anything.
He's had a good run. He's allowed to.
No, he's good.
For sure. He's got
enough about Tom
Hanks.
Hanks. He's always talked about on our podcast. Let's talk about the fund.
We should have a jingle.
So two years ago on Reddit, actually, the Reddit Our Woodworking Forum was my favorite place. I helped build my business. There was this guy who was posting videos of his son named Vlad the Builder. That was the moniker he went by. And he was a kid with Apert syndrome, which is where your bones don't diffuse in utero. Like when you're growing in your mom's tummy, all your bones are connected and they start to diffuse as you grow. And your bones with Apert syndrome don't diffuse. So everything's connected. Your teeth are connected. Your skull doesn't expand. And it is, I was going to swear, it is very painful.
We've had Jimmy DeRest on here. We couldn't get 2 words in edgewise without one of those. So you're fine.
Right. Sentence enhancer.
Yeah, it was
right. Jimmy's great at that.
Yeah, he's the best.
And this guy was having the best time. His name Vlad. He was like enjoying it so much, and he's making like things on the lathe, and he's sanding stuff, and he's using planers, and he's pushing stuff through the table saw with the help of his dad. So I reached out and I said, listen, what I saw today was one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen. What can I do to support you? What do you need? And they said, well, actually, we're in the Ukraine. Vlad and I run a charity where we help get kids out of orphanages and placed in loving homes in Middle Europe. I'm sorry, in Eastern Europe.
That's amazing.
And this is a couple that moved from Oregon all the way to Ukraine because they were trying to adopt a child, and they found out that orphanages in Eastern Europe are like asylums. Like, they keep these kids locked up, kids with disabilities. They don't have toys, they don't have food, and so they realized it was like this horrible thing. And so they went over there and they adopted kids, they foster kids, they have 12 children, they have 30 families living on their ranch. Which actually my charity raised $40,000 to get them out of the Ukraine when Russia started shelling their city. Awesome. It was amazing. We got them all out to Romania and Germany. We raised $40,000. I was on a plane coming back from Workbench Con. So I like turned off my phone in Atlanta. I landed in Denver and it was like, oh my God, we raised 35 grand in like 4 hours. I mean, it's crazy. It was unbelievable. That's and amazing. So since this time, what I learned from this when I first met him, and we made this video called A Mallet for Vlad. You can look it up on my YouTube channel. We sent like a crate with $5,000 worth of tools, all these things. I talked to his dad, like, okay, we need work holding stuff. Because of his hands, the bones are fused, he can't hold things. So we need ways to safely hold things so he can cut them. And so we came up with all these unique solutions for him. And we realized that people with disability, most importantly, making things is therapeutic and it decreases recovery time. It increases self-confidence. It's like one of those things we can all like sort of attest to the fact that like it's such a cathartic exercise. Like it's good for your soul to make stuff. Like finishing things is the greatest feeling. So we found that people with disabilities usually don't have resources. I have resources. We don't take sponsorships. We have a million companies that would love to be mentioned in a video about my charity. And so they'll give us anything. And it's like, we can give things to people that help them and grow their business and their hobby and their passion. So now today we have a full-time director, Chris Giffro from Cowdog Woodworks is the director.
We just had him on.
Attorney.
We had him on.
Yeah. Chris is great.
Amazing guy. And what people may not know about him is he's a prosecutor in Florida. He's worked with lots of nonprofits, phenomenally talented guy. And so we have a board. We have 4 board members that all have different, unique sort of perspectives on people with disabilities and how to support them. And we just launched something I'm so proud of. We worked on it for over a year. It was the Build Up Initiative. And we created this semi-autonomous application system that allows people to not only apply to be recipients, but they can apply to help. And so they can say, look, I'm willing to donate my time, find somebody in my area that I can help. And so we can connect these people through the system that we created. Mark, who does all my digital media content, he developed this thing. It's incredible. And so we can connect people. So if you need help unloading your truck and you're in a wheelchair, like, hey, I got a guy, 40 minutes away from you who's willing to come out on a Saturday, help you put your new saw stop together, or whatever it is. Awesome. And then on top of that, we designed 3 sets of plans that people could build and donate to people in charity. We'll help finance some of that, or we'll give you a tax deductible receipt for your time, which we value at like the fair market value, not just your materials. So like, we're averaging $85 an hour plus the material. So, you build this gantry crane, it's going to help somebody lift something out of their truck and you get a $2,500 tax deductible receipt.
Right.
And then on top of that, we're providing people with tools. One of the things about people with disabilities is they have so many unique needs and everybody's need is different. Somebody may have work holding problems, or they're in a chair, so they need all their tools lowered, or they need lower workbenches, or they need lifting help, or they suffer from extreme anxiety. And so like, we donate speakers, like with, sound machines, all these things are like really fancy earmuffs that really can play soothing, all these things. There's a million reasons or a million ways that we can help people. Yeah. And so we've raised about $250,000 in the last 2 years. We've put tools in all sorts of places. I've got pallets of tools in my shop that we just send out to people. And it's incredible. And one of the things I think is amazing is there hasn't been a charity in our community that was woodworker focused. And so now in the last year or so, you see like what this thing that just happened with you this week, Dan, where you were personally attacked and then the community was attacked. People rally around that. And where do they go? It's like Katz-Moses Woodworkers with Disabilities Fund. So it's like a rallying point for the community. And it's been one of the things I'm most proud of in my life. And it's just fantastic that we've been able to put this together.
I love hearing about that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Wow.
It's amazing. And you earlier, before we were kind of prepping things, you mentioned the word virality. And it's amazing how this thing that started as a negative, and it still is a negative, but it got spun up into this thing where now there's donations being made for your charity. And I was talking to Chris before we got into the podcast. You talked about Chris Giffro. I was talking about Chris. We were talking about how wild it is that this person makes these ridiculous comments. And now the community has rallied to the point where now we're like, how can we give money to something? You know what I mean? Like at first we were like middle fingers up to this guy. And now everyone's like all rallied up. That's what happens. Like people get rallied up and riled up and want to help.
Now it's like, what do we do with all this energy?
Like, what do we do with all this positive energy? And it's like, let's help.
I mean, that's just a testament to how amazing this community is. I mean, they get riled up, like you said, but they turn it into a positive, and it's just it's mind-boggling. It's fantastic.
And I want to point something out that Dan sent to us about this. Was outside of our community. We don't know if there's any connection. There was a Jesse James post from Orange County Choppers, West Coast Choppers, and like he talked about working out of his garage. There was a post of him in his original garage, just a picture of a snapback hat. There's no mention of any of that, and we're like,
no mention of anything else. But that was just kind of the timing. Was
like, did it make it outside the community too? That's crazy.
Well, it's just so relatable because it's not just this. Every industry is started in a garage and started somewhere. Everyone started somewhere, and everyone starts with these meager starts. I mean, and that's what we wanted to talk about. We want to talk about the positive outcomes of this scenario, and we want to talk about this from the perspective of business owners. And with that, I wanted to ask you, John. I mean, why did you start KM Tool?
Well, so I started in a 9x12 shed with no power. That was how I started my business. And I had a construction company that I hated, and I ended up leaving. I walked away from it. We had like 30 employees at the time. We were doing huge projects, and I hated it. And I had an incident, which Mike, you've heard this No Zero Days talk that I do. There's a video on my channel if you want to watch it. It tells this whole story. But I saved a couple from getting murdered from a gang, a gang of 8 to 10 guys. And I paid very dearly, beat me almost to death. And when I came out of the hospital, I realized that life was fragile and that I was doing something I hated, and that I did not want to ever spend a moment doing anything in my life that did not make me happy. So it took like a year, but I left my construction company and I didn't know what to do. And I saw a video by Matt Kenny where he cut some dovetails, and I said, I want to do that. And I said, that looks easy. And I tried it, and I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And that's when I invented the dovetail jig, because I was like, I made these guides to kind of help me do it. And over the course of 6 months or so, it became sort of the beginning of what you see today out of wood. And I needed a way to advertise it. So I started a YouTube channel, posted some videos about it, started to sell a few. And then it started to snowball and all these things. And I enjoyed the community interaction on YouTube. I love teaching. So it was a really cool opportunity for me to share my journey as I grew as a woodworker. And I just ran with it. And I knew two things. I knew that I wanted to teach. I knew that I wanted to support the community. And I knew that I wanted to develop tools. That's three things. I said three things. I'm
the math guy. I can't confirm.
Right. Okay. And so I started to develop products and teach. And, in 2019, we put out 110 full-length YouTube videos. We worked so hard, like every week. Mark and I, who's like my right-hand guy, he's the partner in our company. He's my cameraman. He's just amazing guy. We put out 110 videos in 1 year, and we developed products. I created the Katz-Moses stop block, the apron, and we started to release those. And this all sort of grew as I was buying tools and my journey grew. I was so frustrated by these companies that, you'd hear them talk about how great this was and that was, and I buy it and it'd be some cheap piece of garbage. And it was like a waste of $40, $50. And so I swore to myself that I would always put people before profits as I developed tools. And if you look at the pricing on my website, that hasn't changed during inflation. We've done our best to keep our prices really low. Our prices are very fair, and we develop tools that I guarantee if it's on my website, it will be of either one of extreme value or it'll be the best in the market. And so if it's like, that's our thing about Katz-Moses tools. If it's on the website, it's in my shop, I use it, it's battle tested, and I love it. And so that has now snowballed into, we are developing products with content creators, and we're helping other people grow their businesses. We find that when I started when I started like developing the dovetail jig into sort of a finished retail product, I had lots of companies come to me, and these big ones that I won't mention names, but they've got 110 retail locations in the United States, offered me 2%. They said, "Oh yeah, we'll do it for you. You can have 2% of the sale."
What the hell?
Like, you're out of your mind.
An insult.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. It was like insulting. It was like,
That is
you're out of your mind.
insulting.
And so I said, okay, well, I'll do it myself. And then, I realized it was like, okay, I can go through my affiliate links and see what people want. And then I can develop those or bring those into my store. And I started to develop this business plan where it was like, okay, we do a tool development company that's based around content creators that helps content creators do the same thing I did, use my resources. So the other thing that we do that people don't know about is we take all of content creators' products that they sell and we'll distribute them for them. So we're like a Fulfilled by Amazon for content creators. They can come to me, we'll sell their shirts, their jigs, their whatever they make in their shop, we'll do all the distribution. And because, I ship 100,000 packages a year, I get the lowest shipping rates on the planet. And so people don't know because they're a small business, such a screw job. I hate this. Like when I was first starting out, it was like, I could ship something to Canada for like $32. It was like more than the product I sold. And now I can do that for $6. I can ship 2 pounds to Canada for like $8.
Talk dirty to me.
Right. And so I can share this with other content creators and I can help the community build a business that isn't corporate. We can keep it small. We can keep it small business. And that's what we do at Katz-Moses Tools. We aim to keep it small. We aim to keep it small business and we aim to support the community. And so that's why I started Katz-Moses Tools. And that's why what happened to you this week, Dan, is so frustrating to me to watch somebody just nuke the community for no apparent reason. Just like
it makes no crazy sense. Makes no sense. And
to double down on it day after day.
All
you have to do is just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, and I just want to do better. I want to learn from this experience and do better.
I want to go back to the helping content creators distribute products. For instance, I just bought the router plate jig from Tamar over at 3x3, and you were helping her distribute that, and not just distribute it, but you were helping her in the design process.
We developed it. Obviously it's her design. I approached her. She was the first person we worked with. Tamar is somebody I respect more than just about anybody on this planet. She's one of the most phenomenal woodworkers on YouTube.
I enjoy her content.
Brilliant. And her and I think a lot alike. Like people always compare us to each other, the jig king and queen I've heard thrown around loosely, but I don't subscribe to that. And so I approached her and said, listen, Tamar, this is a fabulous product. Let me work with you. So we have a product development team. We designed it with her. We ordered the materials. We manufactured it. We designed this insane manufacturing process that you can see in the launch video on her channel. And it's like one of those things that's like life-changing, we do it, we sell out, and suddenly Tamar doesn't have to worry about sponsors like she used to. She doesn't have to grind and scrape and kowtow to these companies because suddenly she has a source of revenue that is legit, like it's big, it's legitimate, and it's her own thing that she's so proud of. Like, I did this, and that's what we're about. We're about freeing up people from their corporate overlords and developing real business with real revenue that has, the kind of effect on their life that's like putting kids through college and, down payments on houses, and we can change people's lives while doing really good things, which is so fun. It's like all I ever want to do is make things that make people's lives better.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
I'm legitimately like in awe right now. Like, I didn't realize. I knew you did a lot. I've been watching you for years. I didn't realize how much you did.
Pete has a lot of products, and I feel like you guys could get together and talk a little bit.
I'll have my person call your people.
I want to promote Pete a little bit right here. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we're all in products in some way. Mike's like the real big furniture maker. Dan's a furniture maker and products. I'm just pure products. But we all kind of we all had our own take from like a business owner and selling products on this whole thing. But like, we really wanted your opinion on it too. Wow, I didn't realize Mike and I, that's crazy.
Mike and I talked a lot when he was getting into that, and I was really proud of him because he took a big leap, and I urged him to do it. Obviously, I'm not going to, he did it on his own, but it was really fun to watch you, Mike.
You did give me all that money. That was cool.
I did.
That was nice.
I've told this story on the podcast, but Dan and I went to Workbench Con 2020 right before COVID hit.
Yes, that's where
the brainchild of
this where we
show
fell in
came
love
together. That's where we fell in love. That's the first time it happened.
It's-
No, we
the incident.
The incident. Yeah, that's when the show was put together. But I've mentioned in the past for sure on the show that went to Workbench Con out of my element, didn't know what I was doing. I had really very recently gotten into woodworking. I went to Katz-Moses class. He talked about automation. That really clicked for me. I to this day don't necessarily really like automation stuff like myself, but I do value what it brings to my business. It brings something to my business that you just can't get from a lot of different things, like an employee. Sometimes like they're just an employee that always works and does whatever you need. So and the other what's funny about it, well, not funny, what's weird about it is I did it. Some people see it as, oh, it's this thing that takes human jobs. Well, no, that in my case, it's actually definitely created jobs. I have employees now, and that wouldn't have happened had I not pivoted and made an investment in my business to get this thing that I really wasn't sure how I was going to make it into a thing. And it's I've gone through these phases where I was making things for other woodworkers, and now I've really learned how to make it work for me in the way that I want to run my business, which I really love making custom furniture. Like that's what makes me really happy. Like that's what makes me happy. Like I love making furniture. So I have this thing that just makes me just money. It just constantly makes me money and allows me to do that. And I'm buying another one as soon as this new building is done here in a few weeks. And you know, the big takeaway was from Jonathan's class at Workbench Con 2020. It really was a big turning point for me. I came home, my wife, I said, hey, we need to talk. My wife and I said, we need to talk. I'm about to make a big investment. And the plan is this. I was working at my family's construction company, and I wasn't unhappy. Well, there was definitely times when I was very unhappy.
Yeah, I was going to correct you there.
Overall, I had a good job, right? Like I had a good job, but it wasn't rewarding for me because it wasn't mine. It wasn't my thing. It wasn't mine. I didn't make it, and I wasn't there for me. I was there for insurance. And then I got to make this thing. And now I'm doing this thing, you know, I'm doing this thing that I absolutely love. And now I'm a small business owner, and I'm very proud of that. And when I see other small business owners making huge missteps, it's disappointing. That's the bottom line. Like that's what happened. The virality of it, as Jonathan said earlier, is it's significant because it hits us all so hard. I mean, even if you're a weekend warrior and you're not doing this and you're not running a business with employees, you're still running a business. Even it's all relative. It all scales relatively. Like if you're doing it on the weekend and you're trying to sell some stuff, you are running a business. You are a business owner. And when someone tells you that what you're doing is less than what they're doing, it shows how weak the person saying that is, and how thin-skinned they are, and how little self-esteem they have, and that they need to tear you down, and they should be building you up. And and every real business owner that I know wants to encourage other business owners. If they're there tearing people down, they're a dirtbag. But the real business owners that really succeed, they are there to build up other small business owners, because they know how hard that was and how much work that is. And when there's someone tearing them down, they're a piece of shit. That's the bottom line.
Preach, Mikey.
Absolutely. Well, and everybody who works in their garage is pouring their heart and soul into it, and they're giving up time with their friends or their family to do it, and to be insulted for doing that is insanity. And you know, like you said, Mike, it's like I have 12 employees, full-time employees now, and that is a year ago I had 4. And so automation has created jobs in my shop. You know, we have 2 giant CNCs, we have 3 lasers, we have 3D printers, all those things. And we have more equipment coming in, and it creates jobs, but it also creates a huge sense of pride. Like one of the coolest things is I just signed the paperwork this week to provide health insurance for all my employees. It is one of my proudest moments. Like it's all, you know, I love supporting my people because just like machines, people are my biggest investment. And it's what makes my company run, and empowering them to make good decisions and all those things. It's something I take so much pride in. So when I see somebody say something so derogatory towards where I started in a 9x12 shed. It's just silly. It's absolutely silly to watch. And it's why the community rallied, and it's why we're getting this positivity out of it, where the people are donating to my charity and all those things.
I don't
Think of all
know
the
if
people
people
that
understand.
have no garages. They're following us they want to do it, but they don't even have the space. Or they
Or
were
they go to
doing
a maker space on a Sunday.
I want to say something about like what Jonathan just stated though. In California, getting your employees insurance coverage is not an easy task. And it's something that it's covered California is something like I have to have my employees go through. And I like definitely next step goal for me for 2023 is to get my employees insurance through the business. Yeah. There's other reasons for that too, that I won't go into, but being able to provide that for my employees, that's a huge step. And I applaud you for providing that to your employees, because in this state, it's really difficult and very expensive. So, anyways, I just wanted to mention that real quick. Sorry.
Thank you.
What were you going to say?
Oh no, it just you're kind of answering
I'm
a lot
putting
of
you on the spot. You didn't have anything to say. I was just trying to throw you under the bus.
Well,
Pete, go.
but it is great that you're talking about the whole employees. Like when you're talking about the automation talk 2 years ago being like this light switch moment. For me, it was Jonathan's speech this year at Workbench Con, which was about basically small scale manufacturing production. And when he said, I went from 4 employees to 12 in less than a year, I was like, what? And I remember I asked you a question at some point, like, so if you're doing this all over again, like what would be your priorities? Like, would it be outsourcing? Would it be this, that? And you were like, hand off anything you can and automate and pay for automation or whatever, like whatever you can right out of the gate. And I was like, okay, all right, all right. So
investing back in your own time.
You like gave me permission to like invest back into my own time and like push certain things. And it's actually a question somebody asked at some point about like, what was the biggest hurdle we had? And I'll answer that question later, but like, that was like a push that I needed to like, whoa, I got permission to do that. Well, not permission, but like you helped me justify giving myself permission to do it.
Right. And one of the most eye-opening like statements I say to people where you see like the gears start turning is I say, if you can't hand off the tasks that don't directly grow your business, you just own a full-time job.
Yes.
And people like you see it, just their eyes, and go, holy shit, you are right. If like for me, if I'm not doing things that grow my business all the time, then I own a full-time job. And so you have to be able to delegate. You have to be able to empower your employees to make good decisions. And one of the things I always really coach people on is like, if you're micromanaging, you are blowing it, because everybody is smart enough to get something done and you can find out who's good at what, but you need to show people what you expect. Like, here's the goal. You get there any way you want. And I'm okay with that. 100%. And as long as they can get there, and get the job done to the standards that you set, then you can go do things like go find financing for a new CNC mic, or, learn new processes, like go to Haas class and learn 5-axis milling, whatever it is, but you can learn the things that are going to change and grow your revenue streams.
Yep. I walked into the shop today. One of my guys was finishing a table. I almost started to tell him, hey, why don't you put the finish on the side? It doesn't matter how he does it as long as he does it. Like I was about to start telling Matt to just, why don't you put the finish on the sides now too, instead of flipping it over? It doesn't matter. That's just how I would do it. At the end of the day, he's going to get the finish on there and it's going to be done and it's going to look great. I mean, that's his job to make it look great. So as long as it looks great and I do my QA, it's good, but I don't need to tell him how to do it. I just need to tell him what needs to be done. He can get there the best way.
Well, if it's wrong, you get the opportunity to show them how to do it right. Like, hey,
exactly.
This isn't going to fly. This doesn't pass QC, but let me show you what I would do differently that you can learn from and grow from.
Yeah. And that's where you got to look at a thing and go like, literally the thing I'm about to say is an absolute waste of both my time and their time, because if they do it this way or my way, the same exact result happens. And all it shows is that I'm a control freak and I need this person to do it my way. And that is when you go onto the social media network and start bashing someone for not using your product. That's the exact result of that. That is not a joke. That is a control issue for people with tiny, tiny self-esteem problems. And that literally is where that's where that grows into. No joke. So, I mean,
sorry, she's a big fan. She really wanted to meet you.
Oh, it's my namesake.
Sweetheart. That's big. She just came over and starts meowing.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned in the pre-show that you had a Christmas tree, a Christmas tree lighting company, and that
Christmas lights. Yeah.
Christmas lights. Excuse me. Yes. Thank you. You did Christmas
Not just
lights.
trees. He did all kinds of things.
You find
I did bushes. Ficus.
I do it all. I'm like, whatever. No, I mean, how do you, I like to ask this question. Like, what is woodworking to you? I mean, what is this to you? I mean, what is it? You talked earlier about the fund and how we all agree it's this thing that's like so magical, and I don't even know how to put it into words. Like it's unreal. Like what is it?
It like grows your soul. It's like, so for me, finishing a project and like looking at this beautiful thing, like I'm sitting in my living room right now, and I'm looking at things that I've built like this lift top bar where I took a wedding present to my Bubby and Zeta in 1939, fully restored it and turned it into this lift top bar. On top of that is a humidor.
I remember that video.
I love that you just had that like queued up, like ready to go. Oh my God, that's so sick.
So what it is to me, it's like the most wonderful, beautiful thing to create with your own two hands. And like, it is, nobody will ever know the joy of finishing something that you build entirely yourself until you do it. And then once you do it, you realize it's like an addiction. It'll never go away from me. Every year I shut down my company for a week. I give everybody paid week off, and I build something that I do not post pictures of. I do not share. Nobody sees it but me. And it gives me this reset every year where I get the opportunity to do something that reminds me of how I started, and like reminds me of what's important and why being in a garage workshop, you know, wearing your hat and growing and learning is so vital to your soul, and why creating things is like so important. And that's what it is to me. And that's why I love to make tools that are like valuable to people, that if I give them to them, I know it's going to give them so much joy, because it's going to be something where they're like, man, this was the best $40 I ever spent, because it does the thing that it says it's going to do. It does it well. And I can provide that to people. And one of the coolest things we have coming out is it'll be my first time ever competing with like Lee Nielsen and Veritas.
I want that now. Hurry up.
So,
go on,
Mike, I got good news for you. Production is done.
Yes.
We're finishing up the instruction manual. I'm going to launch a pre-sale here very soon.
I can't
and
wait.
I will, Mike, I'll send you a link before I launch it. I'll let you be number
Send
one.
us a link, please.
No, you don't.
Okay, deal.
No.
But
it's
like,
what it tells. Say what it is. Say what it is.
So listen to this. So one of the other things, you guys will be the first to ever hear about this. I haven't shared this with a single person. One of the things we get asked about most is this chisel mallet I have that I had custom made about 5 years ago. And I get asked about it all the time. And we are in development of the coolest one ever. So this was the one that I originally had developed. This is kind of not a good picture of it. You see, it's like beautiful piece of maple. Yep. It's just a piece of hexagon brass with a tap built into it. So then we have developed this.
Ooh.
Oh my.
I like that a lot.
Oh,
so
crazy.
it gets better. It gets better. So not only is it all brass and gorgeous and has that beautiful look, but the brass heads are removable. So you can put plastic heads on it that are way softer than the brass, so it won't mar the surface.
Yeah.
So it's going to be beautiful. I just have samples showing up at my shop this week.
Very nice.
And it's made by the same developer, the same guy that I developed the router plane with. I think he's the greatest tool maker of our generation. It's a company called Hong Dewey. I don't know if you ever heard them, but they make the most beautiful tools, compete with anybody in the world. And we're developing 6 tools together. It's going to be a series of 6 tools, a collaboration that we're doing.
I can't wait for that router plane. I am so excited about that router plane.
And we're going to be able to do it at a price point that's about 5 or 10% less than the Veritas.
I don't even
Very
care.
cool.
Pay twice.
Right. I mean, it is going to be number 1 router plane on the market, hands down. Yeah. It is beautiful. It works. The functionality, the problem that when we looked at the 2 top ones on the market, it was the backlash, and the adjustment mechanism was so much that it created adjustment problems that people don't even know about yet. Like they just live with it because it's like, oh, this is a good tool. But there's like, a 16th of backlash in those. So ours has 0 backlash. Wow. The adjustment mechanism, it has measurements on it so you can zero it out. It's neat. It's really
nice. That story you shared got me all hyped up and soggy drawers.
That's so cool.
It was amazing.
So speaking of like this product coming out, like what's I don't want to say what's the end goal here, because obviously you're never going to be done. You're never done
Never.
making stuff. But like, what's your next like milestone you're trying to really hit with KM Tools, or just with the company, or with your personal growth, or whatever? Like, what's your like next thing you're really working on?
So Mike said something in the pre-show that really resonated with me, which is when you're the most scared is when you're about to grow. We're moving into a 16,000 square foot facility out of a 4,500 square foot facility. We're currently moving, like today, we were like moving pallets. We're opening up we have a machine shop that's going to be in there. We have a Haas 5-axis mill coming in. We're developing a tool design firm that's going to go along with the content creator stuff. And manufacturing facility and distribution center. And the goal is to give the middle finger to all these giant companies that take your money and develop, put profits before people. And we're going to come in, we're going to develop tools at fair market value that are top of their game. And we're going to shake up the woodworking industry. Our goal is to scare the shit out of these big companies, because suddenly we're leveraging the access we have to our customers, through content creators, not just myself, people like Tamar and all sorts of people like you, Pete, will be able to reach people in ways that doesn't cost so much money in marketing that we have to jack the prices up for mediocre tools. We can develop high quality tools that we either manufacture in-house or manage the manufacturing on, and show people that you don't need to cut corners to make money in this industry.
I love this so much. I believe in small scale manufacturing so much. I think everyone's going to have a printer in their house at some point that prints everything or whatever. Like, you see these like Star Trek, whatever materializes your food, but that's what printers are. There's printers that print food. There's machines that cut away material that you can do really, really high quality stuff out of a garage. I have a laser that like 10 years ago would be only seen in like a super high quality production shop or something. And it probably would have cost them $20,000. Like, like I have these machines in my shop. I'm looking at it, like now I'm like exploring the whole water jet laser for cutting metal parts and things like that. Like you could just have that in your garage now. Like they're not massive machines. You don't need a permit. It's crazy what
you don't need
can
50
do.
grand either.
You don't need 50 grand. There's one that's been going on. A Wazer, I think, is one of them. Like they're really small, compact, almost like CNC looking water jets. I'm like, this thing is just affordable for what it is, for what it can do. It's super cool to see what you're going to be going at, because you're going after the like really big companies and overseas production and bringing it bringing it local and be able to do smaller scale runs. Cause I'm pretty sure you're familiar with losing a lot of money on having to do a big run when something doesn't work out, or having to buy a mold that costs you thousands of dollars for a part that may not work. Like being able to do that in house is incredible.
Well, and it's empowering, right? Like one of the things I love about content creation is 20 years ago when I was, I'm 40. So I graduated high school in 2000. And at that time, if you wanted to develop a product, you had to develop it. You had to spend 100 grand on molds and all these things. And then you had to go to companies that were so big, they'd offer you 2%, like I was talking about before. And so now what YouTube did when it came out, Mark Spagnuolo was the first woodworker to post a video, but it put the power back in the hands of the regular Joe. And it took the power out of the hands of the companies, and it's continuing to do that. And there's going to come a point where these companies are going to be scratching to get market share, because all of us are capable of creating beautiful things in their shop. Like here's a couple things that we're working on that are just like we can produce tomorrow. We're developing a Kumiko jig. I've come up with a way to add all 8 angles into one jig. It's going to be crazy. It's going to blow people's minds. It's super cool.
Yes, please.
And then we have a wide belt sander that we just got from a company called Time Savers, where we can run the strips in our shop. Then we're creating a web-based app where people can design their own French cleat system, and we'll cut it out for them. And then all they have to do is provide their own cleats. So we can flat pack all this, Baltic birch or whatever type of wood we do it out of. We can flat pack it by just cutting out all these shapes for them on the CNC. We can do this in mass. We can do 5,000 units in a couple of days. And we'll be able to flat pack all these systems for them that then they cut all their own cleats and put it up on their wall, and it's done. And they can custom design it in our web-based app. And it's going to be so cool. And that's just sort of an example of small, US based manufacturing done in small business shops.
Wow. Super cool.
That's awesome.
That's huge stuff, man. That's
Damn.
amazing.
You guys want to get to questions or?
No,
Let me
this
turn
is
on.
way
I
better.
feel like the sun setting. Let me turn on the lights. So one other thing.
Cats after dark.
Right, baby. Right. One of the other things that I think is so neat about this era that we're going into, and Pete, I think you remember this from my talk, is I talked about how empowering this is for people and how the affordability of these machines is like changing. Mike, it changed your life. I mean, all you guys, it's like life changing. And then there's somebody like me who can then organize this for you, because at some point you need to be able to take advantage of shipping rates that are reasonable, and the fact that small businesses are not allowed to even know that things are negotiable, like it's crazy to me. And so like I want to put use my resources, just like my charity. My business is, we're going to use our resources to support creators and lower their costs so they compete with the Woodcrafts and the Rocklers of the world. Because Rockler gets to pay the cheap rates. They get the $8 to Canada for £2 rate, and you don't. And so you're already handicapped by $20 on an order. And so you have to rely on the connection that your audience has with you to get a sale. Whereas 50% or 75% of people are like, well, I'll just go with the cheapest price, And so we can create a fulfilled by Amazon system that is small business based, and it's just for small businesses, and it's just for garage snapback wearing hat mother effers to make money and take the power out of these people's hands and put it back in the hand of the small business owner.
Very cool.
Super cool.
Well, let's try to get to some questions here real quick. We got one from Adam Barnett here. He has laryngitis, which he'll explain. So I told him, hey, why don't you use a Stephen Hawking robot text-to-speech thing? And he actually did it.
He did.
So here it is. Here's Adam's question.
Hey guys, Adam here from Barnett Custom Woodworks. I lost my voice, so I'm calling in through a robocaller. My question this week is for J-Cats. I need to sharpen my chisels and planes. What is the best sharpening items you recommend for a novice hand tool / sharpener? Booyah, booyah baby. 8-quarter.
Thank you, Adam.
Circle of hot dogs. Poopin' with Pete.
Oh,
AWP Dawn. Love you long time. Bye.
He just typed in all the dumb things from the show. Outstanding.
Dan, can you make that question just a post?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If you send me the clip, you bet. I'll do it.
That was great. So the thing about sharpening that is important to remember is that sharpness is the greatest skill improver in woodworking, that you can learn all the things in the world. And if your tools are not sharp, you will have a bad time. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to learn, but it's also important to remember that you will not get it on your first try, and that stropping is going to be your cheat code to sharpening. So you want to get a jig, or you want to really work hard on practicing how to keep something flat on a stone, which would be like by holding your finger over the bevel and sort of keeping all your pressure there, or getting a jig and setting it up correctly by looking at the side of your stone and being like, okay, is the entire bevel touching? Do I want a micro bevel? The other thing about sharpening to remember is that your primary bevel doesn't matter 98% of the time. All you need to do is do that secondary bevel and you will have a sharp item. For chisels, you need to flatten the back. For plane irons, you just need to do the rule. The David Chatsworth ruler trick is great for just getting the edge.
Yes.
But that it's like sanding. You want to go through the grits, light, medium, fine, and then strop. I think a lot of people think that they just do stones and they get a really sharp chisel. It's not even close. You need to be able to shave paper, and when you can, you're done, stop, don't do anything else, and go use your chisel. And then you can, I actually sharpen my chisels once a year where I use stones. I sharpen them once real good, and then I use a strop every time. Strop until it's rounded over, and then I resharpen. Mm-hmm. And if you could remember that, just strop every day before you use your chisels. If you're going to cut dovetails, there's other tricks. You can have beater chisels where you knock out a majority of the waste with your kind of beater chisel. Ooh. And then you come in with your sharp chisel just to take that last little bit. And so one of the things I always preach is take half and then half and then half and then half until you can no longer take half and you go into your line. And so same with flush trim routing with like a flush trim bit, or I can't think of something else right now, but the least amount of material you have to remove, the better your finish is going to be. And so when you're flush trimming, you want to get as close to your line as possible first, and then use your flush trim bit. Same with chisels. You want to get as close to your line as possible, and then use your chisel, and you're going to get the best results. So to answer your question, because that was a lot of theory, water stones cut the quickest, but they are the more expert stones because they don't stay flat. Diamond stones cut a little bit slower, but they are always flat and very easy to use. And both of those will get you to a strop. And once you learn how to strop, you will get good results with either one of those systems. So just remember, water stones fast, diamond stones always flat, and then strop. Learn how to strop.
So stropping is the key.
Right.
Like you said, the cheat code.
Don't strop till you get it.
Yeah. Can't strop addicted to the shindig. That's not great. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that is stropping is the when I learned about stropping, I don't remember where I learned it, but I was like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. You don't have to be spending a ton of time sharpening all the time. It's just like I actually need to get behind mine. It's been about a year and a half. I've very recently started getting into using my hand tools a lot more. I don't know what's happened, but I love it. But
one of the secrets that I don't usually share in my videos is I usually just use a buffing wheel on a slow speed grinder. That's how I strop. I put some buffing compound in, I just go brr, brr, brr. I do 3 times and it's freaking ready to go, razor sharp.
I actually got that. I got one of those those wet stone sharpeners, and that thing's changed my life because it has the strop wheel on there, and I'll just put it on like as slow as I can go, and I could. Nah, I got the jet one. I didn't get the Tormac, but I actually got the jet one, and I'm actually, as a guy who
not
is
Tormac.
Yeah, it's Tormac. Yeah, I got a Tormac at a garage sale. A guy was selling the whole thing and all the accessories for $300.
What?
Wow.
Jesus. I have one, and it's amazing. It's like so easy to sharpen.
It's like cheat mode.
Yeah.
I don't like sharpening. I don't enjoy it. I like using my hand tools and them being sharp. So one of those is like perfect for me, for someone who doesn't like, someone like Chris Giffro. He doesn't even like woodworking. He's just like sharpening his tools. That's all he likes to do. So that's all he wants to do is make it as sharp as he possibly can. But anyway,
like Jay Leno, he wants the fastest cars for his garage. He's not going to drive
them.
Right.
Let's jump into this question from Josh Friedrich with 507 Woodworks. Let's see, wherever I put that. That's a great question. Sorry, everything's all screwed up here.
It's the one under Josh.
It's under Josh.
Hey guys, it's Josh over here at 507 Woodworks. So it's been a minute since I called in, but I'm really dying to know, what was the biggest hurdle that you guys each faced when starting your own business, and what was the hardest part to get to what you wanted to achieve in your business? I know each of you guys kind of vary in your own world, whether it be 3D printing, custom furniture, tools. But what was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome in order to get to where you were at today? Thanks for calling. Actually, I called.
Let's let Katz go first. What's your biggest hurdles, man? I mean, you're doing multiple things, so there's got to be a bunch of different ones, right?
Man, my life is hard. And like, as you guys have probably understand from this conversation, it's like I'm insane. I'm capable of like handling quite a bit of stress and projects. But you know how I got there, and it was my biggest hurdle by far, is I used to be a micromanager, and I used to always worry about what my employees were doing and how they were doing it. And as soon as I learned to delegate, we talked about this earlier in the podcast, so I won't beat a dead horse here. But you have to delegate, and you have to walk away. You have to set the goals, show people how to do it, and let them get there on their own. And as soon as you do that, you can grow your business. And until you do that, you are stuck and you will never grow.
Yeah. It's hard to let go of the control too. It's really hard to like have other people do stuff that is yours, air quotes.
Well, right. I mean, one of the things that like people will write me on Instagram, something was missing a bolt when you got here, or, some customer service related thing. I say, oh, can you please email support@kmtools.com? We're like, well, I wrote you. was like, man,
Right.
I got 12 employees. Like, I do you think that I could create the Katz-Moses router plane if I was answering 3 hours of emails a day? I just can't do it.
Right.
And so, like,
Right.
you got to understand that I've delegated that task to a very talented person who's very capable of being much nicer than I am.
And that's their specific job,
Yeah.
right?
Right. That's their job. And because that stuff wears on me after 7 years of, like, dealing with those kind of things. Like, I can't do it because it just hurts my soul too bad. And instead of lashing out at people, I've just delegated it to people who are nice.
That's not what you're supposed to do.
That's kind of smart.
Right. I have decided that I'm going to, pay somebody to be pleasant
Nice.
and solve people's problems and take care of them. And so point is, delegate and you will grow.
Yeah, Dan, this is why Kayla books your photography shoots, because you should not be talking to people.
One of my biggest hurdles.
Go.
One of my biggest hurdles is just getting past my own perceived like future failures. And like, don't you ever like start something and you're like, wow, I can't do that. That's never gonna work. Getting past stuff like that, getting past my own mind, my own brain is still to this day one of my biggest hurdles. I mean, I still fight myself. It's really hard to get past that mentally. And but once you get past it, once I get past it anyway, things are not as hard as they seem. And it's like Jonathan, I think said, like Jonathan said earlier, I think you got to believe in yourself. You gotta back yourself. So that's my biggest hurdle. What about you, Mike?
That was Mike Coffey said, you got to bet on yourself always. And it was powerful.
Always bet on
I liked
yourself.
it.
There you go. I'm sorry, Mike. You get all the credit on that one.
The house takes 10%.
Right. Actually, if I go through this big retailer, I only get 2%. So there was some definite turning points. One was making the decision to invest in a big tool, which I had no business investing at the time, but I did. I had every right to invest into a machine that was going to better my future. So everyone does. Everyone has a right to do that. So that wasn't a hurdle, but I guess it was, because it was like, hey, I'm actually making a significant financial investment here. So what's my plan? Like, am I going to keep doing this thing that I'm doing now, or am I going to do that thing? Because you can't make an investment like that without jumping into that bed and being in that bed. So that was kind of a tough turning point where I was like, oh, I guess I am going to do this. And the next hard one was leaving my family's business. That was very tough conversation. And, it went very well. And my dad is a small business owner. He owns, he's got like 200 installers or whatever at the family construction company. And, he was very happy and proud for me. And that's how a business owner should respond to someone starting a business. That's how you respond. And it was hard for me. We had that conversation and I was like, oh, this is going to be real difficult. It was Christmas. But when did I leave? Last year, the family business? So I guess it was Christmas 2021, I guess it was. Is that right? 2020.
I think it was Christmas 2020.
It was 2020.
It was 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. We were up in Montana. I said, hey, I'm leaving. He's like, I know. I was like, you knew. He's like, yeah, I know. He's like, I know. We've noticed you're working till 4 a.m. every day, and you're coming into work and working all day here, and then working super late. I was like, yeah, it's got to happen. So, and that was like a 7-month departure for me because we had to assign all my tasks out to other people. I had a lot of responsibilities at the family business, and we had to get those out to like 4 different people, and that was a tough transition. You guys were there for that. Dan and Pete were there for that. How frustrating it was, and having
your anxiety levels were
anxiety through the roof. Wasn't sure where things were going to head, if I was going to make it, and what was going to happen. And man, it was scary. But man, it had to happen, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. So that was one of the big ones. And then now for me right now, it's just like this constant scaling. I feel like I'm constantly doing, which isn't necessarily hard, but it is scary making these really significant investments in my business. Like I'm putting in a new building now. We're putting in another building behind the shop. I've got another CNC. I've got a big slab flattener coming because we do so much live edge stuff, and I've got all these things, and it's just I'm chasing down these contracts with big companies, and it's what I want to do. And that's kind of what's scary too, is like I'm doing this thing I want to do. So I feel like something's got to give. I always feel like this can't be right. Like something's got to give, but it's not so far. So, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that.
So would you
but
say betting on yourself has been a hurdle?
it is? It's hard. It's hard to bet on yourself, but always bet on yourself, no matter how hard it is. And that's Jonathan said, it's grit that wins out every time. And it is like, you have to just do it. Like it's that Shia LaBeouf, do it. Just do it. Like you just got to do it.
Dreams.
Like you got to just
don't
do
let
it.
your dreams be dreams.
I love the two things I always love saying to people is grit beats intelligence every time.
100%.
And being hungry makes you successful. And that means jumping off the cliff. It means spending the money, buying the CNC. It means quitting the job that pays you 80 grand a year for the one that pays you 40, because you're going to make it pay you 80 regardless of what it takes. And being hungry is important, and being comfortable is scary. I hate being comfortable. Every time I'm like, oh, my job's easy. I'm like, I'm doing something wrong.
That I'm the same way. And that complacency makes me worried. I'm like, oh God, this isn't right. Like something's not right. Like you're not moving forward if it's easy.
If you're not
growing,
easy,
you're not making progress. Yeah. If you're not scaling,
well
you're failing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always say. If you're not scaling, you're failing. So I mean,
rhymes,
anyway.
It must be true.
Right.
It's
if
true.
you're not a grower, you're a shower.
You're a shower.
Wait, what were we talking about?
Different podcast. No. Pete, biggest hurdles for you.
So for me, and I touched on this, I think earlier. Yeah. And during whatever. I touched on this earlier. It's giving yourself permission, or realizing that you don't need someone's permission to take the leap, to advance, to do something. But not only that, I'll go one step further, is realizing that you don't need to explain yourself to someone. You don't need to justify it to someone to make sense. And I'll give you my example of I'm an immigrant from Poland, moved here with my family. When we moved out of our last apartment, I could have gone into a crappy apartment. They could have gone into a small house. We decided, let's buy a house together. I'll have a little shop space. I was just getting into woodworking and whatnot. And I'll have a little garage. We'll stay downstairs, or I'll stay downstairs, and then you guys will live upstairs. So I lived with my parents into my 30s, because that's just like a very traditional Eastern European thing. And like we supported each other, but every tool purchase or whatever, even though I had the money, the shop paid for it, whatever, I felt like I had to justify it. Like I had to prove it to the people that live upstairs that like were like, this or that, or like anytime something free came from a sponsor, my mom would always be like, oh, just be careful. Like, what do you mean be careful? Like, this is a business transaction. Like, this is how it works.
Right.
But it always filled me with doubt of like, they believed in me, but like, it filled me with doubt of like, I need someone to tell me it's okay to do this. And, Jonathan, like you truly had a massive impact on me at that speech and Workbench Con, because like my main small scale manufacturing it's 3D printing. Every year I make the same mistake of I open up my woodworking shop for business. I hate that. I hate doing client work. On the woodworking side, I love woodworking. It's been my hobby. I love doing it for me. And I officially said, I'm not doing commissions unless it's something really exciting to me. I'm not doing it to help friends or whatever. I want to focus on my business, and my 3D printing has blown up so much that I'm able to then say, I don't need to take on commissions. That's paying the bills for the shop. I can buy most tools that I want and not have to worry about it. And I went after the talk in Atlanta, I had 3 3D printers. I have 9 right now in a short amount of time. And do I need all of them right now? No, there's one right there on the ground, not built yet. I need to fully assemble it. But I'm already scaling for what I know is going to happen this year. And I had to just kind of suck it up and give myself permission. And I lost a lot of people along the way, including like my best man and some of my close friends who doubted me from the beginning. They thought it was like silly that I try to monetize a hobby. Like, no, I want to do this full time. I want to build a future. I don't want to have to work at a 9 to 5 for the rest of my life, working for a 401k and whatever. Like I want to retire at 40 so that I can follow my passions and have my businesses work for me. And that is something that no one really teaches, except people in our community, at least the people that are really caring about the community and like what you're doing, like I want to be at 40 where you're at, but like, I need to give myself permission, because no one's going to come over to my house and be like, hey, I think it's the right time for you to take this to the next level. Like, no one's going to say that to you. You have to say it to yourself. So That's my thing. Give yourself permission and don't be afraid to lose some people because they don't understand.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the toxic.
Like, get rid of the toxic. That's really what it is.
People hate to see you succeed. One of the things I've noticed in my career is that everybody loves to support you when you're struggling. Like, oh, you got this, you're going to do it. And as you start to find success, then suddenly they don't like that. Oh, you're always working. You're never able to hang out. They're just like crabs. They want to pull you back down. And that's why it's important, I think, to give yourself permission and also not ever consider where the advice is coming from. Everybody wants to give you a piece of advice, and you're like, you don't even do this. You're an accountant.
Right.
Like, get out of here.
I've said that in the past. Like, don't go to a non-business owner about how to run your business. They don't know they have no input that's of value there. Anyways, it's 100% that.
Right.
Katz, we're an hour and 10 in. Do you want us to keep going on some questions? We're fine if this is this has been a great episode, so we can be good to call
the
it
next question is pretty good if we want to get
Let's do one more.
Toma?
Yeah.
Toma?
Oh, right, Toma. We got to get Toma.
We got Toma in here. All right, let's make sure let's see if I can push the right button.
Love Toma.
He's great.
Right.
French. Hey guys, it's Thomas from France, and I have some questions. Since you recently joined the I Almost Lost a Finger or More club, I was wondering if you had changed your way of woodworking or having a way to force yourself to stay out of the autopilot mode, or maybe just change any other habits you had. Jonathan, I was wondering what was your process to create the tools you sell? For example, did you make the first dovetail jig because you needed one and then the demand was there so you started producing them? Or it was more like, I think this could sell, it's a great idea, let's develop it. Thank you guys, have a great podcast, bye.
Thank you, Toma.
We love you, man. We love you, man.
I love
mean,
that I had
you
already
had
heard that question one time, so I knew the accordion was coming.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Well, those are for you. So
I was actually not aware
okay.
that you had almost joined the Lost My Finger Club.
I did. I chopped off the tip of my thumb on a jointer. And one of the things, I think to sort of it's almost a metaphor for everything we've talked about tonight, which is I used that opportunity to share my shame. Like, I was really ashamed of it because I'm a teacher. I teach people safety. I was really ashamed that I made a mistake like that because it was a dumb mistake. It was
that would be very hard.
Focus. Yeah. And I was ashamed of it, but I told people immediately. But then I used it as an opportunity, as a teaching moment. I interviewed 3 trauma professionals, a paramedic, a PA, and a trauma surgeon, and talked about all the things that you need to know. Because everyone talks about how to prevent an injury, but they don't talk about what you need to do when you're injured. And that's a reality that some of us may face. And so, some of the things that I learned during that, we did this beautiful video you can find on my channel, what to do in the case of a trauma or something. It's right after my injury video. And it was things I learned are is your tourniquet wrapped up in the plastic? How are you going to open it with one hand? You're not going to open it. So you should go open your tourniquet, learn how to use it, leave it open so that you can tighten it with your teeth. The other thing is about the fight and flight response that everybody has when they go into shock. You lose your short-term memory, you lose your deductive reasoning skills. So you need to practice what to do in the event of an injury because you need that repetition. Otherwise you will, when I cut my thumb off, there's this trail of blood in my shop. I did 3 laps around my shop. I don't know what I was doing. I don't remember it. I have no recollection of it. And there's just this trail of dripping blood around my shop like this because I didn't know what to do. I was completely lost and I couldn't look at my thumb for over a minute because I thought it was gone. And luckily it was just the tip. But it was the scariest thing. And it changed my woodworking in the sense, in Tomas' question, I now approach every tool much safer. I think about every tool I'm using and I don't, if I feel like I'm losing focus or I shouldn't do something, I don't do it. So that was important. And then to talk about the product development thing, obviously I could talk about this for 45 minutes, but it's I feel like I know when something's a good idea because I have so much connection with what the community likes because of the content creation. But I also think that like, it's really like every step of the process when you're developing something, you should get peer review. And so that's like a drawing of it. Talk to 5 other woodworkers and say, what do you think of this? Tell me where this sucks. Like, where's your pain point on this? Where's this fail? Tell me where this is bad and be honest, like kill this thing.
So
like,
you're actually seeking constructive criticism.
Yep.
And you want that feedback.
I love that we've tied every topic to this. And then I develop a prototype, and I develop not just one for me, I develop 10, and I send them to my friends. Hey, beat the shit out of this, break it, tell me what's wrong with it. And then I do another prototype, but this one's like nicer. And we maybe had a machine shop machine some of the parts, or we got real hardware. And, then it's like, beat it up, beat it up, beat it up, beat it up, break it, break it, break it. And then eventually we come up with something that works. And then we go to bid, and we, get manufacturers and materials. And we look at, we do material analysis where it was like, how much does this cost? How much does this cost? What's the benefits? What's the drawbacks? And then eventually we come up with a product that works. And then we we write a check, and that's when it gets real scary, because now you're writing, big checks. Like, to get my products down to a rate that is reasonable and competes with the rockers and woodcrafts in the world, I got to buy $100,000 at a time. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying, because what if it doesn't work? Like, I don't have that. Here's a crazy story. The stop block, the first order had to be $80,000. At the time, I had saved every penny I could for 2 years, and I had like $62,000 to my name. That was all I owned. I had left my construction company with nothing. This is 2 years later, and I bet it all. I've done this 3 times in my career where I bet everything I had, and it was $80,000. So it was more than I had. So I needed it to be a success. And what I did is I negotiated a deal with the manufacturer where they give it to me in 3 releases. So it'd be like, a third of 80, a third of 80, a third of 80. And I got net 30 payment terms. So I had like a buffer. So I ran a pre-sale, and it did so well. I think it like sold 60 grand in the first week. And I was like, I can pay this bill. But it was like, I gambled it all. And that's the thing about being a business owner and being in product development, is it is scary. And you have to really bet on yourself. Like Mike said, Pete, you have to give yourself permission to do it without listening, because every naysayer and every conservative person will say, don't bet at all. Are you insane? Like, bet 10% of it. It's like, well, 10% doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't give me one run of extruded aluminum.
It doesn't get me there.
Yeah.
It doesn't get me there. And sometimes you just have to bet on yourself, and you have to bet it all, and you have to do it. But the reason why I believed in it is because I'd done all that process of peer review. I didn't just decide, hey, I got an idea, I'm going to bet it all. It was like, I got the data. I got the data for over the course of, a year. And I kept refining it. And then you make that gamble. So I think that, Tama, answers your question in the sense that, like, you got it. It's a gamble, but it's a calculated gamble every time.
Yep. Yeah, you got to bet on those things. And
you're not just walking up to the table and
throw all your money down and not have any plan. I mean, you have to have
exactly.
a plan.
It's exactly what I was going to say. You're not just walking up to the table and putting all your money on black. I mean, you're actually before you even get to the table, you're collecting data, you're doing your research, you're doing stuff.
I think when you have naysayers, it hurts so much because they're basically implying that you don't know what you're not smart enough to make this decision correctly or go down this path correctly. And that comes down to, like, when people say things that are like, I'm doing this to help you. Like, I'm trying to save you from big chemical.
You.
Or whatever.
Sorry,
just stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's like, like, I'm trying, like, when people are like trying to become the hero in a situation, it's like, man, get out of here, dude. I don't need you for this. This is not what you're here for.
You're not doing me a
really
favor.
Frustrating. Yeah. So
I've had that too so many times in my life. And it's the thing that I always tell people is, like, what's the worst that happens? Like, you'll be back, you'll build it back up again. Like, but you've made the calculated gamble, and you've taken the bet based on data, and you did your research. And when these people are telling you, oh, it's not going to work, they're the people that are gonna, 401k retire at 65.
Yeah.
And
at least I tried
in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least I tried, and that's what it comes down to. These people are too scared to do stuff. Anyway, This is
Right.
great answers. This is great stuff, man. This is
This is
really
awesome.
great. We're so glad you're on the show. It's such a great episode.
Thank
This
you
is
for
one
having
of my
me, guys.
favorite
No, no,
episodes.
thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously,
Thank you,
one of the
guys.
best.
Super enjoyed this.
Really
Thank you,
means a
thank
lot.
you. So
Really
we
means
really
a lot.
appreciate you making time. Really appreciate you being on here. We really appreciate your insights and your wisdom and stuff. So thank you so much, man. We really hope to have you on the show again. That'd be awesome
And
down the road when you got something coming up.
I'd,
So-
anytime,
We
guys. I'd
appreciate
love to be
what
back.
you give back to the community too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not just teaching, but the foundation, your charity. It's inspiring also. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Everyone check
Thank you.
the show notes of this show because both on YouTube and the podcast form and Patreon, it's gonna have all the details there. If you want to get involved, you want to donate, you want to do anything, or just check out his products, just go to the website.
Thank
Yep.
you so much.
Yeah,
Very
all the
cool.
links are there.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for everyone for listening. Thank you, Jonathan, for being on the show. Thanks for everything you're doing. We won't be back next week, but we do have another episode next week. That is going to be with Jordan. We recorded that previously to this. So thank you to everyone for supporting us. Everyone have a great 4th of July weekend. If you're in the United States, if you're not, have a great week. Don't do anything crazy. That's the best outro I can
Or
for
do.
this.
Don't
Or
Or
do.
do.
Yeah,
We're not
actually,
gonna tell you what to
I
do.
take it back. Yeah, do
Yeah,
whatever you
do your
want.
thing.
I don't care.
Yeah, do
Have
your
I
thing.
just
fun.
want to
Have a
say,
great
don't
time.
blow off your fingers.
Yeah, don't blow.
At least come out of the weekend with the same amount of fingers
Yeah,
you
right.
you
have
went
the
into
same
the
amount of
weekend with.
digis. Yeah, don't pull a Jordan or Jonathan really like that. But, anyway, yeah, you guys take it easy. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for all the support. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy. Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Love
Thank
you
you.
long time.